All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. So excited to be with you here again today. And before we get started with our playthrough, I just thought that I would thank you one final time, right? Where we've just entered our last 48 hours, and the response to this Kickstarter has just been insane. It's been wonderful. It's been so delightful. And each of you have played a really important role in that. Not only through your support, but so many of you have been spreading the word on social media. So many of you have been, just helping let people know about this game, and that has been just so amazing. So thank you so much for all of that. So today, of course, we're going to be taking a look at the very last character in the core box, a character that we haven't really had a chance to play with before. And just like last time, I'm going to do my best to actually be watching the chat. But like last time, I'm not very experienced with live streaming, and so I might miss your comments or your questions. But like I said, I'm going to try to keep on top of that so that we can, talk about all those great things. So, like I said, we're going to be playing through the introductory scenario this time. So, the same scenario we played through before, but we're finally getting a chance to play with Cassandra. So, let me go ahead and move all of these other characters out of the way because we're not going to need them. And I'm going to summarize how to play the game briefly, but I'm not going to spend as much time on it at this point because we kind of went through it in a little more detail with Ezekiel last week. So one of the really interesting things about Cassandra is that she has access to these two little decks of cards that we've never had a chance to really see before. You can see that we've got... Oh, yes. Sorry, just checking out some of the comments. I'm really glad that we can live stream to our friends in Europe and the UK this time. So that's really exciting to me. But anyways, you can see that she's going to have access to these two little decks of cards, Focus and Power. And, what Jenkins teaches us in the show is that the ingredients of magic are power that is channeled through some sort of a focus. That those are the two things you need, the ingredients, if you will, that you need in order to produce a magical effect. And so a variety of her cards are going to be gaining her focus or power cards. And you can see that both of these cards tell you that you can spend energy to flip over both a power and a focus. And what you're going to find on the back of these cards, let me snag them and flip them for you. What you're going to find on the back of these cards are some special little magical effects, right? That power channeled through some sort of a focus results in a magical effect of some sort. So, for instance, this little magical effect allows any player to draw 3 cards, right? So they're nice little bonuses. They're not necessarily the only way that she's going to be doing magic. We also have things like this that are going to improve how you make attribute checks. So when you roll dice, this is going to make things a little bit better, and each of these has a slightly different, different magical effect that you can gain. And as you can see here, when you collect power and focus, you flip them both over, and then you choose and you gain one of them and you discard the other, right? So you get a little choice of, you got 2 different things that you might pick from. You're going to pick one of them. The other one's going to go back. So that is kind of one half of the magical equation for Cassandra, right? Because Cassandra is going to be the only starting hero whose base suggested deck is going to include magic. Now, obviously, you can deck build. You can put magic in any character's deck that you want. And we've got heroes in the future like Jenkins who are going to deal a lot with magic. The other component to magic, though, is that it's never risk-free, right? Something that Jenkins really hammers home in the TV show. Magic never comes without consequences. It's never risk-free, as I said before. So each of these cards that are going to be in my deck that have to do with magic, the cards that are going to get me power and focus, they're going to have a drawback. And that drawback is usually going to be to discard cards from my deck. And the reason that's significant is that once I have to shuffle my deck, I have to draw a new adventure card. So in the game, magic brings unwanted attention. You're going through your deck faster, means you're going to be drawing adventure cards more frequently. All right, so that's kind of our introduction to Cassandra. Let's set up our scenario over here. Right, so I've already got my disturbance card out, and I'll remind you that the disturbance card is how we lose the game. Right, if we end up with that many tokens shown at the bottom of the screen, so 10 tokens on this card, we will advance it to the next disturbance, and if we run out of disturbances, we'll lose. And this introductory scenario only has one disturbance. So if we get 10 on there, we're going to lose. We also have these mission cards, and the missions are like the story beats we have to play through in order to win. And you can see on the right-hand side, it tells me how many tokens I need according to how many players are playing the game. So with only one player, I'm going to need 3 tokens to get through this. All right, so let's take a look at our setup card and set the stage for the adventure we're playing through today. Assault on the Library. The library is a sanctuary where ancient and powerful magical artifacts are kept out of the hands of those who would abuse their power, which is exactly what the Serpent Brotherhood has long sought to do. But now they have broken into the library, and it's up to you to defend it. We'll then come check out our disturbance for the next part of the story. The library has called you to serve, and answering that summons has thrust you into a world of magic and mystery. Your job is to protect the innocent by keeping magic out of the hands of those who would misuse it. It's your first day on the job, but before you can get your desk organized, klaxons blare out. The perimeter alarm has been tripped. This can't be good. All right, and then finally, our objective here is to defend the library. The Serpent Brotherhood has broken into the library. You must protect the artifacts while fending off the invaders. All right, so let's now follow the instructions on here, right? We're told to flip the first player token face down, right? That'll come back, help us out a little bit later on. And then we're told to start mission 1, which we've already started. And then finally, we're going to search the deck for an enemy and put it into play. And let me get rid of the setup card. These enemies, just as a brief reminder, they can exist in 2 different places on the board. Right? The first is out here in the middle of the table. While they're out here, they're not working to, like, punch me. They're instead working on the disturbance. They're trying to make me lose faster. But the other place they can be is right here in front of me, right? And when I put them in front of me, that is assigning them to me, the player. And now, right, there's something right in front of them. They're going to be fighting me. They're not going to be worrying about furthering that disturbance card. So this particular enemy tells us that he enters play unassigned. So we'll go ahead and put him in the center of the table. All right, with that, let's go ahead and draw our opening hand for Cassandra. Cassandra's deck is a really interesting mix of math and science and magic. So her deck is not full-on magic, right? She's really a specialist in math and in science, and she's beginning to realize that there are hidden connections between math and magic. And so what I'm going to try and do is kind of mulligan or kind of redraw cards to really focus on the magic aspect of it, because I think that's what a lot of people are interested in seeing this time. So you can already see that I've got a couple of these cards, like for instance, Ritual Circle. And at the bottom, you can see that it's going to be gaining me power and focus, right? So that's going to be a good card to hold on to. I've got these Protective Wards, which are going to prevent damage to me, which is awesome. And it's going to get me a little bit of power. So got some magic there. The other thing is that Cassandra has some special cards, for instance, this Mathemagics card, which push this idea of risk-reward. That in the show, particularly in the first season, whenever she's activating her gifts, it's physically painful to her. It deals damage to her. And so she's going to have a lot of cards like this one that allow her to trade damage for some sort of a neat effect. In this case, a damage to an enemy or a progress token on an obstacle. And that can be really, really valuable. And so you can see Cassandra's all about risk-reward. Magic cards are going to draw attention. Her cards are going to use her life as a resource. So I just finished talking about how I was going to mulligan for more magic cards, but I'm actually pretty happy with what I've got. So I think let's actually hold on to this hand for right now. Last thing I'm going to do before I get started is gain 4 energy. And energy, as a reminder, are cards that are from the top of your deck that are here in your energy pile. So whenever you would gain energy, you're going to take cards from your deck, put them in your energy pile. Whenever you spend energy, it's going to come out of your energy pile and into your discard pile face up. Right, so that's the way we're going to be spending energy here. All right, so one last thing. Cassandra says that at the beginning of the game, right, during setup, she starts the game with 1 power card. So we're going to go ahead and take one of those powers and put it over here. So we're already halfway to having the power focus pair that we need. All right, so I think we're ready for the first turn. And we'll, of course, start off with the preparation phase. So this is where I can play attachments, artifacts, and sidekicks. And because I'm really pushing the magic angle, let's go ahead and put into play this Ritual Circle. So the Ritual Circle is a really kind of risky card. It's free to put into play. It's going to come into play with 3 tokens, right? So I can use it 3 times. And each turn, I can spend one of those tokens, discard the top 3 cards of my deck, gain a free energy, right? So this card's like 3 free energy, and either a focus or a power. But you can see how fast it's going to burn through your deck. You got to discard 3 cards every time you want to use it. So it's pretty early in the game. Things aren't that bad yet. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to discard 3 cards from the top of my deck to gain 1 energy. All right, so I've got 5 energy to play with, and it says that I get to gain a power or a focus. So let's go ahead and snag ourselves the focus so that now we've got our focus power combo here. And you know what? Let's just immediately spend 1 energy to flip those 2 over and see what we get. Oh, there we are. All right, so we've got that. Did I shuffle this deck? Let's just assume that I did shuffle. So anyways, I get this exact same one that you've already looked at. And, 2 of the same that I already looked at. Let's assume that I did not shuffle. Let's put these back. Let me see if I can show you some other fancy things. So the idea is that each time you draw from here, you're going to be drawing a random card. And I'm guessing that I just didn't shuffle after I showed you those last 2. All right, so you can see that this is a very similar effect. So there are going to be some cards that double up on an effect. And this is going to be really useful once we start rolling dice. It gives us a lot of extra successes. And this one is going to exhaust a obstacle, which means it's not going to contribute progress to the disturbance, which is excellent. and it's going to add 1 to it. Well, let's go ahead and keep hold of this one that's going to make my rolls better just once. All right, so we'll flip that back over, put it back with the other power cards, and shuffle. All right, so still in the preparation phase. Let's see what other mayhem I can cause. Let's go ahead and bring out some Mathemagics, right? Give ourselves a way to trade damage for good effects. All right, so that's going to cost us 2. And, you know, we never really know what's going to come off the adventure deck, and it could be something that we're not going to like. So let's go ahead and play this pattern recognition right now, right? It's an event. We can play it kind of whenever we want, but obviously it's going to be better to play before you draw those adventure cards as opposed to after. So let's go ahead and spend 1 energy and play pattern recognition. So this says to look at the top 3 cards of the adventure deck, and I get to discard 1 and put the other 2 back on top in any order. So we've got ourselves a obstacle that requires insight. That's the little 3 rings down at the bottom, and you can see that that's what Cassandra is best at, right? That's her high stat. So I kind of don't mind that. I think we'll just leave it for now. We got a magical disturbance, which is a complication, right? It comes out, it makes us follow its instructions, and then we get rid of it. So that's not bad. And finally, this unstable artifact, which requires some lore, which is that little green book icon at the bottom. Let's go ahead and get rid of the unstable artifact. Let's put this, and this turn we'll handle the magical disturbance. I think that's going to be a good thing for us. And meanwhile, our pattern recognition goes away. All right, so we still have a little bit of energy left, but I think that's going to be the end of our preparation phase. We're going to move right into the adventure phase. And shockingly enough, the top card is Magical Disturbance. Who could have guessed? All right, so this tells us that we have to make an Insight 4 check. So the symbol on the left, the little 3 rings, that tells us how many white dice we're going to roll. So if we check out Cassandra here, she's got a 3 in that particular attribute. So she's going to get 3 white dice. And then in the little black square, it tells us how many black dice we have to roll. And for those who are new, the black dice have all bad symbols on them, and the white dice have all good symbols on them. So 3 versus 4, not bad, right? Could have been a lot worse, but let's see how this works. So each die has 2 different symbols on it, and some blank sides, right? So the blank sides obviously do nothing. I'll just set this aside. The black dice have these little books that are on fire, and those are failures, right? We don't want to be burning books, but they are counteracted by these little seals of the library, right? The little Metropolitan Public Library seal in the hexagon. So those are successes. So we've got 2 failures and 2 successes. Those will cancel each other out. It's not bad. The other symbol on the white dice is the Tree of Knowledge. Now, the Tree of Knowledge is a symbol that's really important to the library, but it doesn't mean anything on its own. Instead, if I look down at Cassandra, each character or each hero will have some special power that they can activate I guess that they can spend that die result to activate. So those symbols are not going to mean anything right now. And to make matters worse, if we check out this card, it says we have to ignore all those Tree of Knowledge results. So we'll just treat those as blanks. But as somebody in the chat noted, we've got 1 more symbol here and 1 more failure. So at this point, we've got 3 successes and 3 failures. We're tied. Technically, that means we failed by 0. But let's check this out. It says for each point the check is failed by, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. Well, I failed by 0, So I would discard 0 cards from the top of my deck. So not bad. Not bad, Cassandra. All right. So now we're going to come to the action phase. And this is the opportunity for us to really handle all of these problems that are out here. So the most common action that we're going to take is we're going to go after a challenge box. And, once again, for people who haven't been around before, the challenge boxes are what's shown in the bottom kind of center of the card. So, for instance, this Relic Looter says that you can go after him, but you have to roll your tactics, that's the little red gear icon, and 2 black dice. Or Defend the Library says that I can go after it with my Guile and 2 black dice. Now, neither of those are going to be super exciting to me because I've got 2 tactics and only 1 Guile. So yeah, neither of those are going to be great odds for me. And this Relic Looter at the bottom left says that he's got 4 life. So that's going to be a really hard thing for Cassandra to kind of chew through just by rolling 2 dice versus 2 dice. So we're going to pull something a little special with Cassandra. We're going to, instead of doing those challenge boxes, we're going to play an action card. And you can see that action cards, for instance, here we go. For instance, Optimal Solution, they'll just say action on them. So in order to use this card, I have to exhaust a character who's going to take that action. And here she's going to use her brilliant ability to calculate the odds of things, right, to find the optimal solution, which is to deal 3 damage to an enemy or add 3 progress tokens to an obstacle. So she's just going to do 3 damage right off the bat to this guy. And sorry, some of you may have noticed I forgot to pay for it, so I better do that. It cost 1 energy. So that's going to be that action, right? With just 1 action, laid down 3 damage. And Cassandra's got Mathemagics, right? So she can exhaust it and deal 1 damage to herself to deal a damage to an enemy, or add a progress to an obstacle. So she's going to go ahead and do that. Right, her gift hurts her, right? She's doomed by her gift, but she does 1 damage to this enemy over here. So we've already dealt 4 damage to this enemy, and we've already defeated it. So we can just get rid of those tokens. And, the mission says, when an enemy is defeated, add 1 progress to the mission. So that's awesome. We'll add 1 there. And this enemy is kind of a little extra difficult to defeat. It says, when defeated, add another progress to a mission, right? So just by finishing off this Relic Looter, we've already put down 2 of the 3 tokens we need on Defend the Library. Yeah, no dice rolling needed. That's just how Cassandra rolls. All right, so with that, let's move on. Right, at this point, I'm done with the action phase. We'll flip over. It's the enemy phase next. If there's any enemies out here that are assigned to me, they'll attack me. But Cassandra took care of them all. We'll take a look at the mission and see if it's ready to go yet. So it's not quite ready, 2 out of 3. And then finally, we're going to add progress to the disturbance. So those are going to be these little skull tokens. And we're always going to add 1 each turn, but we add extra for all of the cards out here that we weren't able to finish off. Well, in this case, we've managed to finish all of them, so we don't have to worry. Yep, and as people in the chat are noticing, we didn't have to roll dice, but we did burn through a whole bunch of cards and deal damage to Cassandra, but it's all that, risk-reward stuff. So we'll see if she's able to keep that up. And finally, we get to the refresh phase. We ready all the cards in play. Oh, not the tokens, the cards. And we get to draw cards or gain energy up to a total of 3. So I don't have very many cards in hand, right? I've been burning through them pretty quick. So let's draw one. Ooh, got ourselves our first sidekick, Lucy Lyons. She's pretty expensive at 3. It's pretty neat, though. I think I'm going to draw another card, see if there's something that's going to be a little cheaper, a little better for me to play. Hey, I got stuff that's even more expensive to play, the Jetpack. Jetpack is amazing, right? It's going to give her opportunities to ready, which is like unexhaust. And as long as you're ready, you can keep taking actions. So she can, jetpack around and get lots of stuff done. But obviously that's even more expensive than anything else I have. So let's start building up our energy, right? We're going to need a lot of energy to start playing these super expensive cards. Let's see what we can do with that. All right, and with that, we would move the first player token to the next player, but there's only one of me. So let's move on to round 2, preparation phase. So obviously I don't have anything I can play, but I am reckless. So let's go ahead and use this ritual circle. All right, extract a little bit more goodness from it. It says discard the top 3 cards of my deck, gain an energy, and then I can gain a power or a focus, whichever I want. Well, you can see in my hand, I've already got a card that will give me a power, so let's go ahead and gain a focus. I want to just make sure I shuffled that before, so we'll gain that focus. And remember, we still have this little effect up here. Maybe actually what I'll do is I'll draw it into my hand just to remind us. Oh, there we go. Just to remind us that it's there and we can use it. One of the things I find in Tabletop Simulator is it can be hard, or it can be rather easy to lose track of the effects that you have. So we'll just draw that into our hand. All right, so with only 2 energy, we don't have enough to play the cards we really care about. We're going to hold on to Protective Wards. Don't need those just quite yet. Yeah, there's a great question coming in about the number of power and focus cards. It's 4 each. So there's 4 total focus and 4 total power. And each set has 2 unique effects, right? Things that aren't in the other deck. And then they have 2 common effects, something that's in both power and focus. And hopefully we'll get a chance to see some more of those over time. All right, so adventure phase. Got nothing else to play? Let's move right in. And shockingly, it's how large is this place? So this card is potentially dangerous to us because the last symbol on the black dice that we haven't talked about yet is our little serpent. That's a failure. Plus, it activates a special bad effect. And on the disturbance, we can see what that special bad effect is. And you can see for the intro scenario, there's no additional bad effect. But this card now gives it an extra bad effect. It says the disturbance loses its normal effect and instead gains. Every time I roll one of those, I have to add a token onto the disturbance. So, not good, but the nice thing is Cassandra is going to be really efficient at handling that. All right. That's our adventure phase. It's action time. So like I said, Cassandra is going to be pretty efficient at handling this thing, so let's have her handle it. Down at the bottom, it says that we're going to roll white dice equal to Cassandra's insight, which is 3, and we roll 0 black dice. So pretty awesome. Less awesome. All right, so this is a great opportunity for us to talk about the fact that you can discard a card to take any white die and flip it to a single success. And you can do that once per roll per player. So one of the really great things about this game multiplayer is you can help each other out by discarding cards to improve each other's die rolls. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I'm not thinking through this very well. Let me flip this back. So, let's use some magic, right? Let's not use conventional tactics. Let's use some magic. All right, so this effect says that during an attribute check, I can discard it to gain +1 success for each tree of knowledge that I rolled. So if we take a look at this, I've got 2 different tree of knowledges. That card is going to get me 2 extra successes. So we've got 1 normal success there, and then 2 extra successes that I got from the magic. Yeah. All right, Cassandra. All right, so that's going to be 3 successes. But this particular card says that I can still use those tree results, right? I didn't spend them. I just gained successes equal to them. So I'm going to come down and look at Cassandra, and she says I can draw a card and then discard a card or pay an energy. So let's do that. Let's see what we get. Hey, we got some science cards. Science is all about making things a little bit easier. I particularly enjoy this card. I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to keep it, and we're not doing too bad on damage, right? Sorry, I'm trying to think about which card to discard, because there's a lot of tasty things in here, and I assume that as soon as I discard this damage prevention card, we're going to get hit by a lot of damage, and then we're going to die. But we're going to go ahead and discard that anyways. All right, so anyways, back to this. Got 3 total successes, and we just spent our focus, so we'll shuffle that back in. So 3 total successes means 3 tokens on here, and you can see on the bottom left, that's all we need to get rid of it, so this card is gone. All right, so don't have anything else to do during the action phase, so let us move on. Flip this card over. Look at the enemy phase. Still have no enemies assigned, so we don't have to worry about them. We would check the mission. It's not ready yet. It's got 2 out of 3. And then finally we come to the disturbance. So always 1, and then extra for all these cards out here, but Cassandra's just handling them as they come up. All right, refresh phase. Let's ready up and gain our 3 cards. So we really want to play the Jetpack or Lucy this turn. I've got 2 energy. Let me draw 1 card. Ooh, that's tasty. And then gain 2 energy. So this is yet another way for Cassandra to hurt herself. She can take damage to reduce the cost of the next event you play by 1. So as long as you're playing events, she can basically trade damage for energy, which is potentially really useful. All right, and with that, we are ready for the next round. So preparation phase. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use up this ritual circle. We're going full reckless here. And that's going to be 3 cards. Oh. There we go. I think I picked up 3 this time. Oh, Tabletop Simulator. All right. So 3 and 1 energy and I've already got a focus. So let's snatch a power so that we've got the power focus pair that we need. And the ritual circle says when it has no tokens, we discard it. So we've used all the power out of the ritual circle. But we've got ourselves 5 energy to spend on things. So the question is whether we want Lucy and the action that she provides us, which is pretty neat, or whether we want the jetpack. And I think the answer is probably clear. We want the jetpack. Jetpack is just too awesome. So let's go ahead and spend those 4 and get ourselves a jetpack. Yeah, the Ritual Circle is awesome, but it just burned through, 9 plus 3. So it just burned through 12 cards from our deck, right? Because we discarded 9 and then we gained 3 energy. So we're about to draw an extra card from the adventure deck. So right now, all we've gotten is the benefit of the Ritual Circle. We haven't had to deal with the downside, which is about to come. Right, first hit of magic is free. All right, so got ourselves a jetpack. And Cassandra's not too hurt right now. Let's give her some more ways to hurt herself with Glimpse the Beyond. And you know what? I kind of want to know what's under here. Let's put one energy to flip over our power and our focus. All right, so this is going to be awesome, right? Whenever we declare an attribute check, we can instead make it a insight +1 check. So that's going to give us an ability to really handle anything we want. Oh, all right, they're the same. Like I said, there's 2 effects that repeat between the power and the focus. So let's go ahead and keep one of those, right? And we'll toss the other back with the power cards. And shuffle those up. All right, so let's make sure this is flipped over. We've got that awesome effect to, make any check we want, Cassandra's very best check. And I think with that, we are ready for some adventure. So let's draw our adventure card. Hey, we've got ourselves some enemies. That's exactly what we were looking for. These enemies have the ambush keyword, which says they enter play assigned to the player who put them into play. So I put it into play. They're going to jump me and come right at me. Now, they're not going to attack yet. They're going to attack in the next phase. And you can see in the lower right, with little crosshairs, how much damage they're going to do to me if I let them stay out. So 3 damage is a lot, given that I'm already hurting myself. But we'll see what we can do about that. All right, so that was adventure. Let's move on to actions. And yeah, we really don't want these serpent ninjas around. We can go after them with our normal tactics, right? The little gears, but we only have 2 tactics, right? So it'd be 2 versus 1. Yes, we can get rid of one of those black dice with underprepared. I think it's time, right? We just picked it up, but I think it's time to use this effect, right? So Cassandra is going to declare an attribute check against the serpent ninjas. That would normally be a tactics check, but now it's an insight +1 check. So her insight is 3. She gets +1, so that's 1 extra die. And just 1 little black dice. Yep, Sorceress Cassandra. Sorceress Cassandra. All right, so this isn't terrible, right? Got these 2 that are going to cancel each other. We got 1 success, so that's going to do 1 damage to it. Let's... Lucy is just so expensive. It's time to chuck Lucy. And that's going to flip one of these, right? So now we've got 2 successes, so that's not bad, right? That's 2 damage. 1, 2. And, of course, we've got our sweet little Mathemagics over here. So she can go ahead and do a point of damage to herself, to do a point of damage to these little thugs over here. And that's that, right? All 3 damage dealt to them. So we'll get rid of those tokens. They are going to go in the discard pile up here. And remember that whenever an enemy is defeated, we get to add 1 token to the mission. So we'll go ahead and add that right there. Not bad. So we don't flip it immediately, right? We don't advance it immediately. We're going to advance it during the next phase when we're told to. And let's shuffle that back in. All right, so we didn't use the jetpack this turn, but I don't really see anything to use the jetpack on. So might as well just hold on to those fuel tokens and use it on another round. So with that, we move to the enemy phase. Enemies would attack us, but we magicked them to death. We check the missions, and for the first time, we got missions. So, or rather, the mission is ready to go. So, let's go ahead and flip this over. While you have managed to drive the serpents out of your immediate vicinity, their numbers seem endless. Everywhere you go, you find more armed men packing up precious magical artifacts. It is clear that you can't win this fight, but maybe you can stop the Brotherhood from gaining control of the entire library. We start mission 2. It's going to be here. And we flip over the first player token, which a couple of you already know is Jenkins. All right, so Jenkins sits at home at the library. People call him up, get a lot of advice from him. Here he is as our first player token. He's going to be coming along with you on an adventure. Now, he can't take any damage for you, right, because you've got him on a speed dial on the telephone, but he can give you a lot of useful advice and can do a lot of great things for you from his home back at the library. So, flip him over. And then the first player searches the adventure deck and discard pile for 1 to 2 players. Obstacle, and puts it into play exhausted and guarding mission 2. So this is the first time we've had to deal with cards that guard other cards, and we'll talk about that in a second. Let's go ahead and search up some obstacles here. We've got Save the Artifacts, which requires Guile. It's not Cassandra's strong suit. We'll just leave that in there. Got another Unstable Artifact. It's not terrible. Could do that. But honestly, I think let's take a how large is this place. Cassandra is really, really good at dealing with this. It's a little risky, right? It could make our lives difficult if we start rolling a lot of black dice. And that is possible, but let's see how that works. All right, so it says it comes into play exhausted. So let's exhaust it, and guarding mission 2. So when something is being guarded, we can see on here, there's some little reminder text. It says no progress tokens may be added to a mission while any ready cards guard it. All right, so we're going to have to go through that obstacle before we can really start handling this particular mission. So speaking of the mission, cut the anchor chain. Your only option is a terrible one. Seal away the library by cutting the chain that anchors it to this reality. All right, so back to our enemy phase. We just advanced a mission. We still got to remember the disturbance. The disturbance gets 1, and it would get an extra for how large is this place. You can see the little skull on the bottom. But this card is exhausted, so we ignore it. It doesn't contribute any tokens to the disturbance. So at this point, we're at 3 out of 10. Not bad. All right. Cassandra using magic. So, refresh phase. We ready everything, including this bad guy card. And we're going to draw cards and gain energy up to 3. But our deck is empty, so we've got to flip it and shuffle it. And we're going to finish whatever we were doing that caused us to flip and shuffle. And then once we finish that, then we're going to draw and resolve another adventure card. So, don't have much in my hand to play. So let's start drawing cards. Ooh, got a healing card, which is excellent. Let's draw another card. All right, another glimpse of the beyond. Not the worst thing ever. And let's gain 1 energy. All right, so now that I just completed the thing that caused me to shuffle my deck, remember that there is a cost to do so. And that cost is drawing and resolving one of these cards. Oh boy. All right, so we just got an enemy, and this enemy comes into play guarding the mission with the fewest cards guarding it. So the only reason that's important is that in the future, you'll often have more than one mission in play at a time that you're kind of going after multiple objectives simultaneously. But in this case, there's only one mission, so now we've got a mission that's being guarded by 2 different things. So not great, but we'll see if we can handle that. All right, so remember, that was all during the refresh phase. Now we're going to flip this over and start the next preparation phase. So I really just have events, and I don't really see the need to play a second Glimpse of the Beyond, right? I could, because then I could use both of them in a single turn, but that seems a little excessive and a little painful for Cassandra. So let's just move directly into the adventure phase. Draw ourselves an adventure card. Ooh, Magical Disturbance. So we've already seen one of these. Tells us to make an Insight difficulty 4 check. Excuse me. So Cassandra's got 3 Insight, and since it's 4 difficulty, we'll roll 4 black dice. And let's see how this works. All right, not bad. So 3 failures, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 successes. Not bad, Cassandra. Now, the card told us to ignore all of those Tree of Knowledge results. So, unfortunately, those are going to do nothing for us. But 3 versus 3, I failed by 0. For each point I fail by, I discard 3 cards from my deck. Well, I didn't fail by I'd have to fail by 1 to discard 3. So, that's that for that card. All right, this is... Ooh, sorry, I just realized that we were rolling 4 dice. We could have rolled one of the serpent results, which would have been extra bad, but fortunately we didn't. Whew. All right, good. All right, so action phase. Let's get rid of this very first thing, right? Let's make all those black dice just a little bit less bad. So Cassandra is going to go after this. She's got 3 Insight. You can see at the bottom it requires Insight and 0 black dice. All right, nice. So 2, 3, 4 successes. And she's got a tree. So let's do this. Let's draw a card. Got some more science cards. They're going to help us out against enemies. And we really don't care about Glimpse of the Beyond, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. And we'll just hold on to this pressure points in case we ever need to deal with a nasty enemy. But anyways, 4 successes. Oops, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 tokens on this thing. And that's more than it needs, so it's gone. All right. We still got this Brotherhood Bruiser there. And I think Jenkins is going to be our best option to go after this. So right now, since it's in the middle of the board, we can't attack it. But once a turn, you can take an unassigned enemy and assign it to yourself. And now that it's over here, that it's assigned to me, it's not guarding anymore, right? So I could have Jenkins go after the mission, but then this guy would get to, punch Cassandra, and I don't really want to do that. So Jenkins, how would you deal with a suited thug? How would you handle this situation? So he's got 3 tactics, and the Bruiser's got 3. 2, 3. There we go. All right, so 3 on 3. Not the best, but not terrible. All right, so got one success and one failure. Those will cancel each other. We do still have the tree result, which is not bad. Let's discard this pressure points to flip one of these dice to a success. And let's come back and take a look at Jenkins. He can use those tree results to exhaust the enemy or obstacle that he's currently targeting. So that's awesome. It'll exhaust him, and that's this result, and prevent him from attacking us. And we've got one more success, right? Because I accidentally shifted this somehow. Almost. There we go. So anyways, one more success. That'll deal one more damage to it. All right. So it's time to jetpack. All right, let's spend ourselves a token and exhaust the jetpack and ready Cassandra up. And now that there's no enemy guarding the mission, let's have her actually go after the mission. So she's got 2 lore. Sorry, you can see here in the middle it requires lore and 1 black die. So let's see if she's able to handle this. Okay, not the worst thing in the world. Let's go ahead and discard a card. Let's see here. Healing or -1 black die. Healing seems pretty important for Cassandra. Let's go ahead and get rid of one of these, the underprepared, to shift this to a success. And because we succeeded, we're going to add 1 token to the mission. And we need 2, but hey, we're halfway there. All right, so Cassandra's gone, Jetpack is used up for now, and Jenkins is gone. Not a bad round. Now, some of you are probably noticing that I could use Mathemagics and finish off this Brotherhood Bruiser. I think I'm going to hold off on doing that just because I'm nervous about building up damage on Cassandra, and I know that there's at least 1 card in the deck that is going to make me test my Guile, and it's going to do damage to me for every point I fail, and Cassandra's not the most sneaky individual on the planet. So I'm going to hold off on that. And we'll move on. Enemy phase. Enemies would get to attack, but exhausted enemies don't attack, so this enemy just hangs out there. We check the mission. We're not ready yet. And we are just doing awesome on the disturbance, right? 1 more on the disturbance. That's only 4 out of 10. That's not bad at all. All right. Back to the refresh phase. We ready all of the cards, including these bad guy cards. We draw we get our 3 things. I'll draw a card. More protective wards. I'll draw another card. Ooh. Hey, this is tasty. So you can see that it, when it comes into play, gives me a focus. And then it says, when your deck is empty, you can banish that card. And banish means remove it from the game. Totally get rid of it. To shuffle your discard pile into your deck, and you don't have to draw a card. So this is a free shuffle with no penalty. No, you don't have to pay the price. And that could be useful. I'm not really close to needing to shuffle my deck yet, so I'm not sure I'm going to play it quite, right now. So let's draw 1 final card. Hey, more pressure points. Okay, not bad. We can work with this hand. And then we'll start the next round. Preparation phase. I don't really have anything to play at the moment, so we're going to go right into adventure phase. Draw ourselves a card. Lost Among the Shelves. So Cassandra's getting lucky here and drawing a lot of these complications because they don't take an action to get rid of. Anyways, this particular one says make a lore check. Cassandra's lore is 2. And because it's difficulty 4, I'm going to roll 4 black dice. Okay, all right, not bad. So we've got 2 that are going to cancel these 2. So you can see for the first time we've failed by 1. And it says for each point the check is failed by, discard a random card from your hand. All right, so let's come back to my hand. And let's shuffle them up. And let's discard this card. Oh, goodbye, Magic Anchor. Should have played you. All right. That's fine. I don't need that. I don't need to be safe. I can be reckless. All right. Anyways, that was Lost Among the Shelves. So that got resolved. And it's action phase. So let's actually have Jenkins go back after the Brotherhood Bruiser, right? Because Cassandra can handle the, well, here, let's do things smart, right? Let's have Cassandra go after the mission first, because if she fails, then we can have Jenkins go after it. So Cassandra's got 2 versus 1. And now is actually a really good time to play Calmed by the Numbers. That's going to cost 1. Let's take a look at this card. So it says, when a character declares an attribute check, like Cassandra is right now, heal damage from them equal to 3 minus the difficulty of the check. And the difficulty is how many black dice you're rolling. So because I'm rolling 1 black die, this card is going to heal me for 2. So that's not bad. And yes, Cassandra totally could jetpack for a second action. So if Cassandra fails, she can jetpack and do that again. But anyways, so let's roll for this action. Oh, Cassandra, you're amazing. All right. So we have succeeded. So we're going to take and put 1 token on our mission here, and 2 was all we needed, right? So it's not going to progress right now, but it's all ready to progress. And let's just burn through our deck a little faster. Let's be reckless. We can draw a card and discard a card. Ooh. Hey, we haven't seen this before. So Cassandra has a perfect memory, right? An eidetic memory. And so she is able to go through her discard pile for any event and draw it. So that is a really, really flexible card. We're going to hold on to that. And let's go ahead and get rid of the pressure points. All right. So that is Cassandra. And that's going to leave Jenkins up to handle the Brotherhood Bruiser. So Jenkins has got 3 dice. The Bruiser's got 3 dice. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you like the photographic memory card. It's really neat. Particularly, she's got a lot of events in her deck, and a lot of them are kind of for specific purposes. So it's kind of nice that she can like cycle through and pick up whatever she wanted. And to answer the question about if she can activate her Tree of Knowledge result twice, each of those abilities is limit once per check unless it specifies otherwise. So, and that, by the way, is also true of these really bad effects up here. So if you roll 3 serpents, you're still only going to activate the bad effect once, unless it says to activate it more than once. So that's just a way of trying to limit how bad or how good things can get. All right, so Jenkins, 3 on 3. Let's see what happens. Oh, Jenkins. All right, so speaking of our extra bad result, that's a failure, but nothing more, because it's the intro scenario. So those are going to cancel, as I keep accidentally flipping dice. And that are going to cancel. So I have failed by 1. The good news is there's no penalty for failing, so I'm just going to leave it that way. I'm just going to leave it as a failure. But Jenkins does have a tree of knowledge, and his tree of knowledge, like we said before, it exhausts the enemy or obstacle that he's targeting. Right? So he didn't manage to finish it off, but he did manage to kind of confuse it. And, that means it's not going to attack us anymore, and that is good. Yeah, I'm still kind of nervous about doing mathemagics on it. So we're just going to leave it. We're just going to leave it. And, I could jetpack up and roll 2 dice with Cassandra versus the 3 dice on the Bruiser, but I'm not liking those odds. So I'm just going to hold on to the jetpack for now. And let's move ourselves into the enemy phase. Enemies that are assigned and ready would attack. So he's exhausted, no big deal. And we check the mission. So let's advance it. As you sever the library's connection to reality, a great chime rings out, echoing down the long rows of books and through the display cases. Its call is answered by the low rumble of stone grinding against stone. The library has begun to fold back onto itself, collapsing into its own pocket dimension and taking all its artifacts and knowledge with it. All you can do now is escape before the library disappears for good. Well, that doesn't sound very promising, does it? Let's start mission 3. All right, that's this one here. And then each player searches the adventure deck and discard pile for an enemy and puts it into play exhausted. And then the second and fourth players would search for another. We don't have to worry about that because there's just one of me. But we do have to go snag ourselves an enemy. So those relic looters are kind of hard to fight. I don't want to fight them. The cult fanatic is easy to fight, but he brings into play a friend. Right? It says enters play, draw another adventure card. I don't like adventure cards. Yeah, let's snag a serpent ninja. They're not great, but they're not terrible either. And not terrible is what we're going for. All right, so it says put it into play exhausted, and this enemy says that it enters play assigned to me. So it's going to come over here and be exhausted. All right. Shuffle the adventure deck and get rid of cut the anchor chain. Let's check out our final mission. Hallway of Doors. Your escape route is blocked by Serpent Brotherhood goons who look set on forcing you to fold up with your library. But players do not draw adventure cards during the adventure phase, which is awesome. No more adventure cards, or at least no more normal adventure cards. And it says, if there are no enemies in play, immediately advance. So all I've got to do is handle these 2 enemies, and we'll advance that final mission. All right, so we just finished with enemies, dealt with missions, and now we got to do the disturbance. So disturbance is just one more. All right, we're keeping stuff out of the middle. Yeah, we haven't seen this final one. Yeah, no, Ezekiel didn't make it this far. Ezekiel got nothing but enemy after enemy, and enemies are Ezekiel's weak point. So he just got buried under a pile of enemies. I don't think he drew a single complication the entire game. So, yeah, unfortunately, Ezekiel did not make it this far. Poor Ezekiel. All right, so refresh phase. Let's ready everything, including these 2. And we'll get our 3 things. want stuff to play, so I'm going to draw. Pattern recognition is good, but we're not going to draw very many more adventure cards unless I manage to go really reckless, right? If I have to shuffle, then I'll still have to draw. Let's make sure that we have energy to pay for photographic memory and whatever we end up drawing. So we'll gain those two. All right. And with that, let's move on into the preparation phase. So I don't have anything to play during the preparation phase, right? I could play protective wards, but I feel pretty confident about not needing that right now. So we'll move on to the adventure phase, but we're told to not draw any more cards during the adventure phase, so don't have to draw anything. And we move straight on into actions. So let me search. Let me see what events we have. We've got an underprepared, got some pressure points, got some healing. Okay, not what I'm looking for. Not bad, but not quite what I'm looking for. Let's see if we can make this work, though. Let's go ahead and play our photographic memory. So we're going to search for that underprepared, draw that into my hand. And now let's go ahead and play underprepared on these serpent ninjas. So this says target an enemy or an obstacle or a mission, and until the end of the round, all attribute checks against that card roll 1 fewer black dice. So now we're rolling 0 black dice against this guy. I feel pretty good about that. So let's go ahead and have Cassandra roll against the serpent ninjas. She's got 2 tactics and 1 minus 1 black dice, so 0 black dice. So let's see. Hey, not bad. So that would be 2 damage. And you know what? Let's just discard a card to take this die and flip it to a success. That's 3 damage. That's enough to get rid of this serpent ninja. Nice. I thought I was going to have to use the jetpack, but nope. Cassandra is just too awesome. Let's see if Jenkins, in his 3rd attempt, can handle the Brotherhood Bruiser. All right, come on, Jenkins. Hey, not bad. So those are 2 failures, canceling out those 2 successes. So we're left with 2 successes and 2 Tree of Life. So that is 2 damage to this guy. And you can see he only requires 2 damage to be defeated. So Jenkins takes him out. It only took Jenkins 3 times. Come on, Jenkins. 3 actions. All right, so at this point, we are out of enemies. And it says if there are no enemies in play, we immediately advance this card. With your path finally clear, you fling yourselves through a magical door that leads to the library's distant annex. Behind you, the library folds one last time, and then all you see through the door is darkness. You managed to lose you managed to lose the library on your first day. Maybe you set a new record, but at least you kept it out of the hands of the Serpent Brotherhood. And thanks to the annex, you still have access to the books and knowledge contained in the library. But there's no telling what the Brotherhood managed to steal. The job just got harder and more important. The players win the game. And, just to make things even better, we get to unlock 2 different cards that we can include in our deck in the future. We've got Flynn Carson. Sorry, let me pull these out over here. Got Flynn Carson, who we showed off last time. So this is not the hero version of Flynn, right? For those who are fans of the show, in the first season, he'll come in and he'll do something, right? He'll handle the dragons, and then he just disappears, right? And so that's what this card is really going to help symbolize, that he shows up, he's awesome for an episode, but then he just disappears on you. So Flynn is incredibly expensive, but is a really amazing ally. And you can now include this card in any deck moving forward. And there's 2 copies of it. And the other card here is the Backdoor. So this is an artifact, and it helps you bring sidekicks, that's the little fedora symbol, into play. So it says that you can exhaust it, search your deck for a sidekick, attach it to this card, and you can play sidekicks that are attached to the card as if they were in your hand. All right, so it's a really nice way of getting all of that, a lot of extra sidekicks into play. And normally you can only have one sidekick at a time, but there are characters like Eve. If you check out the One Stop Co-op Shop playthrough video, Eve loves cycling sidekicks in and out of play. So that can be a really powerful card for her. And, like I said, you can now include that in any of your decks moving forward. So this is going to be how all adventures are going to work. Once you're successful with them, you're going to get an opportunity to unlock some cards and play with those cards in the future. And some of these cards are kind of build-around cards. They kind of will push you to build a new deck to really capitalize and really make the most of these cards. Kind of like the Backdoor, right? That's not really a card you'd throw into any deck. It's really a card that's going to be useful in a specialized deck. So that is it. Where Ezekiel got buried under a mountain of enemies, Cassandra, Sorceress Cassandra, managed to get all the way through. So that is going to be it for the game. I'm going to hang around for another minute or so and see if anybody has any questions. It seems like we've really had an opportunity to answer the questions that have come up, but if there's any more questions the next minute or so in the chat, I'll address those. In the meantime, if any of you haven't had the opportunity to support the Kickstarter, there's another about 30 hours left on the Kickstarter. Please feel free to do it. You get all kinds of great goodies for backing right now with the Kickstarter. If this game comes to retail, and that's not something I have control over, but if Everything Epic brings the game to retail, it won't have a lot of those exclusives like the long storage box or the dividers or things like that. So if you're interested, if this playthrough tickled your fancy, the campaign goes until November 9th at like 9:30 p.m. Central Time. So, 32 hours, 15 minutes left. So plenty of time to back. And once again, it's just been so amazing, the support that campaign got. I have no idea what the publisher was expecting, but I certainly was not expecting this level of support. It's been humbling and amazing, and we are so excited to be getting this product out to you. So thank you all for joining us live, or for those who are joining us in the future, thank you for watching. And we'll see about doing this in the future between the end of the campaign and, waiting for your game to actually arrive. So see you all then, and thanks again for